What's going on, guys? Patrick here from PatrickLawrenRealty.com, powered by eXp Realty. If you are at all thinking about running an Airbnb out here in Oahu, you may want to think twice because Bill 41 is just passed, and that's really going to change the landscape for investors or anybody who is looking to run an Airbnb. And I'm going to go over some of the new rules that are being put in place, as well as a slight loophole at the end of where I think there might still be opportunity for anybody who is looking to run a short-term rental. To get all that information, make sure you stick around to get all the details. See you on the other side. Okay, guys, so I just went over this 40-page document highlighting anything and everything that I find that's important for you guys out there who may be interested in investing in property out here in Oahu, specifically if you're looking to do short-term rentals, because there's a bunch of new rules that have just come out that can change everything for you, your strategies, and whether it's even a good idea. Okay, guys, well, let's just summarize what these new rules and regulations are. Now, prior to Bill 41 passing, the rules were if you were to rent for 30 days or less, you were being considered a short-term rental. And if you were to do that, you definitely had to have an NUC, or a non-conforming use certificate, which they didn't pass out since 1989. They were planning on passing out a bunch of others. COVID came and went, and they basically said, oh yeah, we're not going to do that anymore. Oops. So they made it really difficult for anybody to run a legal rental. So what a lot of people were doing was that they would post their unit on Airbnb and just say, we'll rent it to you, but the minimum stay is 30 days or more. And that's kind of how they got around it. And a lot of people were still successful going that route. Some people found some gray area where they would say, hey, it's 30 days or more. Maybe they would do a side deal on the phone, or someone would pay for 30 days and only stay 2 weeks. There was a lot of wiggle room where people were kind of in that gray area. So Bill 41 was put into place to basically put the kibosh on that. So now let's go over some of the new rules that are going to be put in place. The first big rule is that the short-term rental, which was 30 days or less, has now been extended to 90 days or less. Their whole game plan with this is to make it a lot more difficult for those gray area people to basically get around and have people sign leases, say they're staying for 30 days, but only stay for 2 weeks. This was basically their solution to stopping that. Another rule they're putting into place is that you cannot run a short-term rental unless you are in one of the designated resort zones. And those resort zones are basically parts of Waikiki, Ko'olina, as well as Turtle Bay Resort. Now, the next rule that they changed was the fines, which can be pretty steep. Now, prior to Bill 41, they would be able to charge you, but not exceed, up to $5,000 a day of you getting caught running an illegal vacation rental, which can get real expensive real quick. And they've just changed it from $5,000 to up to $10,000 a day for you running an illegal vacation rental. What? The next thing that they've put into place is they have staffed up to 7 vacation cops who basically will be going after anybody who is running an illegal vacation rental, scouring the internet, knocking doors, following up on complaints given by neighbors. And this is a big change because prior to this, they basically only had one person on staff who probably was more of a volunteer than anything. And the only reason they would go out to a place to see if it was running an illegal vacation rental was if it was complaint driven from one of the neighbors. Other than that, they weren't actually proactively looking to get any illegal vacation rentals. So a lot of people were able to get away with this and not really get slapped with a fine. So just that, having 7 vacation cops is really going to make it very scary for anybody running an illegal vacation rental. Now let's go over some of the rules if you are fortunate enough to actually have one of those non-conforming use certificates. What are some of the rules that are going to be put in place for you? Okay, now if you are fortunate enough to actually have one of these NUCs, or non-conforming use certificates, which I don't believe they've passed out anymore since 1989, but let's say that you do have one of these and you want to know what the rules and regulations are for you, because some have changed. So let's just summarize some of those. The first rule that I saw on there was that you can only rent out basically a unit that has 2 bedrooms, and for each bedroom, only 2 adults or 2 people can stay in each room. So basically you're maxing out at about 4 people. And for each room that you have, up to 2 max, you have to have at least 1 off-street parking for each bedroom. So if you're renting 2 bedrooms, then you have to have 2 off-street parking. And I can understand and respect that because they're not looking for people to be running even legal vacation rental units to be taking up all the street parking for the local community. And the last thing I saw in there is that there's no gatherings more than 10 people that are not staying at the unit allowed at the unit. So you can't be running weddings or any crazy events at the unit. And again, I can understand and respect this because they don't want somebody's home that's in a neighborhood to be an instant party and just going nuts with more than 10 people. So I can understand and respect that rule. Now that the bill has actually been passed and it took a very long time, we are still waiting for the May 2nd deadline for the mayor of Oahu to actually sign the document. Now, once he actually signs that document, the actual bill, rules, regulations, and laws, and of course the fines will not actually go into effect till 180 days till after he signs that. So basically 6 months. So there is still some time for you investors who are possibly owning a unit and renting it out maybe 1 or 2 months at a time. You still legally can do that for the next 6 months plus until the mayor signs. That's when the deadline starts for 180 days. But once that bill passes, you're not allowed to legally advertise or rent your property without an NUC license for a minimum of 90 days or less. Okay, guys, now there was one interesting thing that I saw. Maybe you can call it a loophole or I guess an exception, which made sense because when they were running the meetings and a lot of people were complaining about this law and saying, well, where are people going to stay if they're traveling nurses or helping our community, charitable events, nonprofits? Where are they going to stay if they're only going to be here for a month? So they have made some exceptions where people can actually rent your unit for less than 90 days if you fall into one of these exclusion lists. So these exclusion occupants are now being labeled a transient occupant, and I will read it directly to you that it says transient occupants means any person who rents a lodging or dwelling unit or portion thereof for less than 90 consecutive days and whose permanent address for legal purposes is not the lodging or dwelling unit being rented. The transient occupant does not include the following tenants. Okay, so who's excluded from these 90-day rentals? Well, let's go over the list, which I have right here. We've got patients, clients, and temporary employees of healthcare facilities, full-time students, full-time remote workers, employees who receive room or board as part of their salary or compensation, military personnel, homeowners in transition between selling and purchasing a dwelling unit. Side note, I am a realtor, so if you need help selling your house, you can legally rent a place in between buying your next one. Low-income renters receiving rental subsidies from federal or state governments whose rental periods are for durations of less than 90 consecutive days, or whatever that is. Lodging providing by nonprofit entities for religious, charitable, or educational purposes. So there you have it. There is somewhat of a, label what you want, a loophole for people who do want to rent for less than 90 days. And I'm very appreciative that they actually did this because there are reasons that people need to rent for less than 90 days if they're coming out here and definitely adding to the economy or helping the local community with their services. Now, if you are trying to run one of these basically short-term rentals to one of these excluded parties, you still do need to submit an affidavit to the DPP or Department of Planning and Permitting, basically showing proof that the person staying at your place for less than 90 days falls in one of these categories and showing proof that they are military personnel or they are in between selling and buying a house or they are a traveling nurse, what have you. You will still have to show proof. So there is some more work you have to do. You can't just have somebody move in and then if somebody knocks at your door and you don't have any proof or have not submitted that paperwork, you still could possibly get that fine. So it's not easy peasy for everybody if you just want to focus on that market. Okay, guys, well, that pretty much wraps up all of the information, ins and outs when it comes to Bill 41 and the short-term rental laws out here in Oahu, Hawaii. I have my own personal opinions on how I feel about it, but what I really want to know is what's your opinion? Do you think this is a good thing, a bad thing? Is it going to hurt our economy, help our economy? Put them in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear from you guys. And also, if you guys do want to reach out to me or have any questions, whether it's about buying, selling real estate, investing in Oahu, feel free to contact me. I have my contact information right here, or you can DM me directly on any of my social media platforms. Again, I am Patrick with PatrickRealty.com, powered by EXP Realty. Hope you guys have a beautiful day. Talk to you soon. Aloha.